It takes literally forever to get a cop on the scene of an actual crime, the fire department to show up at your house unless you're within close proximity to the fire station, the mail system, the government services you go down to your public buildings to get access to. It takes forever to get anything done. And that's because the money that they steal from us is not being used to improve those services and benefits to the public. They're being used for things other than that.
Really excited for my guest, Eddie Craig, today, an Air Force veteran. Also on YouTube at taooflaw.com. Now, Eddie was on InfoWars some time ago talking about property taxes. And as you know, this has become a major issue of mine that I want to bring to the front to have us all coalescing on. It's truly one of the worst things that are done to the American people are property taxes, paying the government for something you own. That is ludicrous. When you look at the amount of percentage of the money you make, you pay in taxes, you should be vomiting. It's at 30% about right now for the average American. This should make you sick. And so Eddie Craig joins me now. Eddie, there's a couple things that I've been focusing on lately, and I don't understand why every American can't coalesce around this, and that's the rigged housing market and then the property taxes that really end up crushing us because of the rigged housing market. You have been going against property taxes for decades. I think the last time you were on InfoWars was almost 10 or 15 years ago you were talking about this. Where is the desire from politicians, a political party, a movement politically to coalesce and end property taxes?
Well, there isn't one. And therein lies the problem. There is no movement by the government to cut off a source of its funding. Doesn't matter to them that their source of the funding is illegal and unconstitutional. It just simply would not suffice to cut their budget by eliminating it.
Now, what's wild is, and I guess this just shows the slave mind that so many Americans have, is some people will actually argue that they like taxes, which I say, well, why don't you pay more then? Don't make me pay more. I don't like taxes. If you love taxes so much, why don't you pay more taxes? But I actually see this. I go on the streets, and it's mostly left-leaning people. They say taxes are good. We need more taxes. What? What in the hell? How does somebody come to that understanding and that belief?
Well, they come to it because they have a complete lack of understanding of how those taxes are actually used and whether or not those taxes are actually used to benefit them. A lot of people are under the mistaken impression that government collects taxes in order to spend it wisely upon benefits for the people. That's not the case. Most of the money collected by the government is lost through fraud, waste, and abuse. Very little of it is actually spent on providing services to the people. Evidence of that is in watching how things work these days. I mean, it takes literally forever to get a cop on the scene of an actual crime, the fire department to show up at your house unless you're within close proximity to the fire station, the mail system, the government services you go down to your public buildings to get access to. It takes forever to get anything done. And that's because the money that they steal from us is not being used to improve those services and benefits to the public. They're being used for things other than that. But the people you're talking about are under the mistaken impression that all the taxes are used for us. And that just isn't how it works.
Yeah, just look at the money that gets spent on the war in Ukraine, $200 billion in less than 2 years. Look at the money that gets spent on illegal immigration. Apparently, they just took I don't remember the number, a multi-million-dollar bus ride, a single bus ride. It cost $1 million to transport immigrants out of New York City. Somebody's stealing money in that deal of our taxpayers.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the climate change hoax and where they're trying to get climate taxes and everything else from. This money is being used to augment other programs, not the public.
Now, you've done the groundwork on this, and I mean, like, literally gone and gotten a shovel to dig some of this up. You found a Texas land patent. I have it here in front of me. I mean, like, where does the argument begin and end? Where do we start? Where do we get people to understand, hey, property taxes are illegal. You own your land. You own your house. You shouldn't be paying the government to have property.
Well, it begins with, at least as far as Texas is concerned, with the Texas Constitution. The Texas Constitution specifically created the Texas Land Office. The entire reason for the existence of the Texas Land Office is to check deeds or title to property, so for the purpose of issuing a proper land patent to the property owner once the transfer of that land has been completed. As you can see from the document I sent you a top copy, a top scan of the document and a lower scan. The top scan shows that signature, the very first signature that you see in that document is the governor of the state of Texas at the time the patent was issued. In this case, it's Joseph A. Sayers, I believe. And in that document, and this is how all land, public land in Texas was turned over to private control. All land sales in Texas occurred through a land patent, not through a deed and not through a title, but through a land patent. The governor, as a representative of the state of Texas, acted as the person who transferred all rights and claims to that property to the individual named in the patent, which in this case would be B.K. Stevens or Stewart, whatever it is. It's kind of hard to read the handwriting. But in any case, the governor made a direct agreement with an individual on behalf of the state to transfer all rights and claims to that property to that person. Now, if you look down at the bottom of the land patent, you will see language that clearly shows that that transfer was a waiver of all rights and claims by the state forever. Now, what falls within the realm of all rights and claims? Well, to put it bluntly, the right to tax it and the right to claim a power to tax it. The courts there's case law in the books that shows that when the government enters into a fiduciary agreement via contract and they engage in transactions that involve negotiable instruments, such as money or gold and silver or bonds or anything else, the contract they sign binds the government just as much as it would any other corporation or individual that was a party to a contract. And they cannot claim any superior standing in any way other than what is specifically stated in the terms of the contract. That's what the land patent is. It is a contract between the state of Texas, via its agent, the governor, to an individual for the transfer of that land. And the representative of the state of Texas clearly states in the contract that the state waives all rights and claims forever. And that includes when any part of that land is transferred to an heir or an assign. Well, what's an heir and what's an assign? An heir would be like if you're passing it down from a family member to a family member via a will.
Which is now what they call the death tax, that they tax on that too.
Well, I don't know if Texas does, but the federal government certainly tries to. But in any regard, that's the heir. The assign is if a parcel of that land is actually sold to another individual and they become the contractual assignee of that land. So the rights of that patent are transferred via that sale to an assignee or an heir when there's a death or there's a sale. Okay? Now, the purpose of the land office is to investigate that original patent, ensure the proper boundaries, property boundaries on it are still in place, and that the part of that land that was sold to that assignee or given to that heir via a will is actually given an updated patent in the name of the new heir or the new assign. That's the whole job of the land office here in Texas. The General Land Office's responsibility was to issue the new patent. But back in the 60s, I think it is, they stopped issuing patents on transfers of land and instead started issuing deeds and titles.
So let's go into that next after this break. We're up against the break here. And so I wanted, where I was going to go next is what has happened since 1902 when that was signed. And then I also want to get into, has this ever been challenged in court as far as you know? We'll be right back with the guest. Don't go anywhere. We're talking property taxes with Eddie Craig. And why am I focusing on this? Because I was given this advice as a young man in media. Owen, find the void and fill it. Not nearly enough Americans are protesting these illegal property taxes, this blatant theft. You pay 30% of your money that you make to the government. It's just unbelievable theft and even slavery. And Eddie Craig has been talking about this for years. And so you kind of got into the background and you were about to get into what has happened in the 60s that hurt us Texans. So finish up with that. And then also, I would ask, has this ever been brought up in a court? Has anybody ever tried to battle property taxes in the legal system here in Texas? Eddie Craig.
Well, like I say, sometime around the 60s, I believe it was, they stopped issuing the land patent whenever a transfer of land would take place. They started issuing deeds and titles. Those are not proper documentation of actual ownership. There's two types of ownership when it comes to land. There is legal ownership and there is equity ownership. Legal ownership means you have the right of possession and use, but not the right of transfer or destruction. Okay? It's like going out and leasing a car. You can drive it, you can use it, you can let others use it. You can do anything with that car except sell it or burn it. Well, that's what a title gives you versus a land patent. If you had a true title to your car, instead of leasing it, you go out and you actually buy it. You can take it out, put it on a piece of land, drive it around, however you want to do it, loan it out as much as you want, run it into a tree, burn it to the ground, and as long as you're not trying to make an insurance claim for it, there's nothing anyone can say or do about it. Well, that's how the land patent is supposed to work. The land patent is what gives you true equity ownership of your land. And here in Texas, that equity ownership says that the state has no rights or claims to that land forever. And because they have no rights and claims, they did not reserve in the land patent. There is no language that says the state reserves the right to tax the property in any way, whether it be by mineral extraction, by ownership, by value, by anything. That's why the Texas Constitution strictly limits ad valorem taxes to real property and not to private property. There's a difference between the two. As far as challenging it in court, yes, it's been challenged. But in my opinion, it has not been properly challenged. Someone here a few years ago, while I was still living in Austin, took a case to court and sued over the property taxes, and the district judge found that he had no basis for his case because she put forth the argument that property taxes have been a long established part of our history. Well, in Texas, that is not true. It absolutely is not true. The land patent would have to contain language giving the state the power to tax the land, or they waived it through the forever language of the patent. So the way this needs to be approached to court, again, in my opinion, approached in court, is that we need to be suing the state of Texas for breach of contract. Then we need to add the counties and municipalities to the suit for tortious interference with that contract. Because the land patent is a contract between the state of Texas and the individual landowner named therein, who has a right under this contract to have equitable ownership of their property upon transfer and payment. which means the General Land Office is required to issue them a valid patent and thus prevent the state from having the authority to tax the land. If you actually look at a title or a deed, you will see that you are not listed as the equity owner. You are listed either as a tenant or as the legal owner. And like I said, those are very different things from an equity owner in the eyes of the law. Because of that, the state represents that they have the authority to tax the land, and you can't fight them over it because you do not have a current patent carried forward in your name, because the land office will not issue the thing, even though they're required by law to do so.
Well, and I'd love to get into how we can maybe approach pushing back and ending property taxes in Texas. And the reason why I've decided to do this is because the governor here has flirted with the idea. He's even made some moves to try to, he gave like an $18 billion property tax cut. It's not much in the large scheme of things. It may seem like much, but it needs to be cut entirely. But there seems to be an open mind from Governor Abbott, at least with the idea of ending property taxes. That's why I decided to do the property tax protest in front of the governor's mansion in support of the governor's idea to end property taxes on September 23rd of this year. I'd love it if you could make it there and give a speech as well. You don't have to commit to anything here, obviously. But has anything come from the Texas legislator? Has anything come from the Texas mayor that nullifies the original land patent deal?
No, they can't. That would be an ex post facto law or an ex post facto executive order. They cannot nullify the original land patents that were issued back in the 1800s and the early 1900s by a law they create today. That would be a retroactive effect upon existing patents. They can't do that. That would be completely unconstitutional. I also sent you another document that goes over the various reasons. It's titled Texas Land Patents Doc. In that, I gave you a list of things about why the land patents versus warranty deeds and titles is unconstitutional. And I listed out 4 specific things as to why they cannot do what you're talking about. As far as giving Abbott any credit for this, I would reserve on that. And here's why. It's a re-election stunt. If Abbott actually knew and understood what a land patent was and what the laws of the state of Texas actually said, he would know that he cannot make a cut in taxes. He has to stop it outright, because an unconstitutional governmental act is unconstitutional no matter what or when it is performed. And the fact that they are doing this in violation of the Texas Constitution and all the laws surrounding those land patents, he has no legitimate authority to offer a tax cut to a land patent holder or to someone that's supposed to have a land patent and doesn't. What he should have done was to unilaterally order the General Land Office to issue proper patents to all current landholders to whom they actually belong. And then to inform the municipalities and counties that any land that falls under any issued patent is not taxable, but in any amount for any reason, because the state of Texas waived all rights and claims to levy such taxes right there in the language of the patent.
Eddie, I'd love to have you on again to discuss this. I'm loaded with guests today, so I've got to let you go now. But I plan on continuing to cover this. And, I mean, if there's a 1% chance we can influence the governor to end them, then I'm going to take it, because I'm sick of this government stealing my money. Eddie Craig, thank you for your time.
We have been right in the red, right in the black. We are now into the black. And I want to go major into the black, so that we can get out of this bankruptcy reorganization and then say, okay, we're going to hire more reporters. We're going to expand. And I'm making those arguments right now. I'm about to make them to the bankruptcy court in like a month. Looks like it's going to go through. We're going to stay on air. But I don't want to just sit here and have some court deal where we just operate and crawl along. I want to supercharge, and I want to expand and build this operation. That takes funds. Plus, that's a side issue. These are great products. Our nitric boost is incredible, cleans out your blood, highest quality. You've heard Dr. Mikovits say how amazing it is. It's discounted. Double Patriot points right now. Up to 60% off on products at InfoWarsStore.com. And then this final point. It's been 3 years since we had it. We got it back in stock. The amazing 30 parts per million, highest quality colloidal silver and all the great things and all the great uses. Back in stock, limited supply, InfoWarsStore.com, 30% off. And it's a very limited supply, but we have it back. InfoWarsStore.com, Silver Bullet Colloidal Silver. The InfoWars Live Silver Bullet Colloidal Silver has returned. Silver Bullet is the answer to Alex's extensive search for a powerful colloidal silver product that utilizes high quality processes to ensure for a truly unique product that has applications for both preparedness and regular use. It is amazing. It's got thousands of reviews, 5-star reviews. InfoWarsStore.com. Silver Bullet returns to InfoWarsStore.com. And while you're there, get some super female vitality, some turbo force, some brain force, and some brain force ultra, because they're all about to sell out. And krill oil's amazing as well.